Welcome back to my sustainability journey. Today we are tackling this beautiful, massive, never before pruned peach tree, and I'm going to take you through every single step. I'm going to talk you through my thinking, and I'm also going to show you how you can break some molds and not just go with what everybody on the internet and YouTube is telling you to do. So grab a cup of coffee. This is going to be a long one. We're going to go into a lot of detail, but at the end of this, you're going to know what you need to think about, what you need to look for when pruning your own peach tree in your own backyard orchard or wherever it is that you might have a beautiful big peach or nectarine tree. So for those of you that don't know, my name is Craig and I am on a mission to live a more sustainable urban life here in suburbia with neighbors and everything else. Dogs, children, gardens, all of those things that you more than likely have if you're also sitting in an urban environment. But I want to live as sustainably as possible. And that includes growing fruit trees, veggies, composting, having worms, doing all of these things that make a little bit of a difference towards the greatest scheme of difference that we need. So I would deeply appreciate if you enjoy this video to subscribe to my channel so you can continue to get really valuable videos like this one is going to be in future years and months to come. First things first, how do stone fruit, and specifically peaches and nectarines, grow and fruit? This is a crucial component to pruning because if you don't know how they grow and how they fruit, you're going to do the wrong thing. The best thing and the most important thing to remember as this bee comes flying around on the flowers is that these stone fruit on second-year-old wood only. Okay? That means where you see this little flower, this branch here grew last year. This is the second year it's growing and it is fruiting. Everything further down here, there are and will be no flowers, no fruit. And this is a fundamental component to pruning and understanding how these trees grow to get it right. Because if you prune this tree wrong and you cut back all of these little new pieces that have come out, you're going to get no fruit. And then the Reddits and the forums are going to open up as to why your fruit tree is not bearing any fruit. It's because you don't understand how it grows. So that's the only thing you pretty much need to remember is second year wood is where they flower and where they grow their fruit. This is everything you need to think about when you're looking at the tree is what is old wood, what is a structural branch, and what is your new fruiting wood. I'm going to go through all of that with you. Then what you want to do is you want to prune a little bit before this. There are only about 5 or 6 flowers that have opened, so I'm still okay, but I am pushing the thresholds of when you should prune. My preference is to prune my trees as soon as the buds start swelling. And what does a swollen bud look like? If you look at that little flower over there, this bud opposite it is just starting to swell. And why I like to do that is because to me that shows the tree is awake, there's sap flow, and the hormones, auxins, nutrients are starting to move around. If you prune it too early in the season, the winter season, like right at the beginning, then you do risk dieback. And I've had that many, many times before where the tree has just lost the branch because I pruned it too early. There's been fungus and diseases that got into the wound. It's just got too cold and it's died back. Where as soon as it starts to warm up, the buds start to swell. Perfect time for me personally to prune, which is right now, possibly a little bit late. So now that you know how they grow, what you should look for, let's dig into this absolute beast of a tree. So I'm pretty tall. I'm about 1.9 meters tall. And if I stick my hand up, there's probably another 2 meters of tree above me. Now that is not what you want with a tree like this. You want to be able to reach, pick, and be able to harvest your fruit, prune it, do summer pruning, all of that without needing to get onto a ladder and risk falling off. So that's the first thing we need to look at with this tree is how are we going to reduce its height. And for me, how I'm going to reduce the height is to start focusing on the forks of the structural branches. What are structural branches, you might ask? Those are the ones right at the bottom that are creating our shape, our scaffold. And our branches are going to go up and potentially they're going to split. From that split, we're going to get a whole bunch of little twigs, small little branches. Every year, as soon as you prune it, there's going to be some more of those little branches coming out. That's going to happen this year, which means those are going to be fruiting next year. And that's how we want to keep building on our primary scaffolds. But what we don't want is to start getting competitors. So now that we have our beautiful single which breaks into two, we don't want another one to come off the base to start competing with this. So we need to clean it up. And we're looking for 2 to 4, 2 up to 4 scaffolds in an open vase shape. Now, when we look at shape, this is where I want you to focus on what I'm doing in this instance and not focus on the internet and what everyone else is saying, because everyone else is saying exactly the same thing and it drives me nuts. If we look at this tree behind me, it has the scaffold of an open vase shape, but it has 2 tiers. There's one tier here and there's a clear canopy at the top. Now, if you listen to all the YouTubers and all the people that give advice, they're going to tell you cut everything on the inside out, only have your outside branches. But for me personally, urban environment, we don't have the opportunity to grow a row of peaches. We have the opportunity to grow one. So what are we going to do? We need to create a canopy so that we can maximize the amount of food we can get. We're not going to create a dense canopy, but we're going to have our initial scaffold and we're going to have a single or multiple trunk come out with maybe 1 or 2 branches above that. And that's what we're going to do today. Because what we're doing is we have the primary structure, secondary structure, just to maximize, double up potentially on our fruit, because in urban environments, you need to be smart. You can't just go and plant 15 trees and have perfect, juicy, incredible quality peaches or nectarines, because the reality is you need to get quantity. And if you want quality, then yes, absolutely, have 4 branches and that's it, and that'll be your peaches that you get for the year. But for me personally, I'm looking for a little bit more because we're a big family, and that's why I'm going with a multi-tiered open vase. It'll be 1 vase, second vase, with enough gaps between it. So, primary structure. Then what we're going to do is we're going to look for everything that's going shooting up towards the sky, and then everything that's shooting straight to the ground. We're also going to look for dead, diseased, crossing branches. There's a lot of those there. So the first thing I'm going to do, because this tree is a complete mess, is I'm going to focus on all the verticals. I'm going to remove all of the verticals first. I'm going to bring you in close so that you can see what I'm doing, and then the trees are really going to look so much cleaner. Now I'm hearing you say, what are verticals? So this is what I'm looking for. So this one you can see is growing straight up. So I want to take that out. Straight up, take it out. This one over here is growing straight down into that one. I'm going to remove that. So that's what I'm looking for in this branch. And already, look here, this is completely open. And you systematically go through the entire tree. And if we have a look at this one over here, the same thing. Here's our branch and it's going straight up. I'm going to remove that. And then what I'm going to do potentially is, you can see there's a fork over there, and I'll cut it back to there, but getting ahead of myself. So that's literally what we're going to be doing, is going all the way around, removing everything that is going straight up in the air. The next thing I want to focus on is everything that is coming off the trunk or off my scaffold branches. So if we look at this branch up here, there's this branch that is growing off the base of the tree. Now this eventually will turn into a competing branch for one of my scaffolds. So I'm going to completely clean up all of my branches so that there's only one. There's a really big one over here that is coming from the bottom, and I'll bring it in close so that you can see. And what we want to do with this one is remove it along the base over here. It's too low and it's too much of an angle. This will go down and the branch will eventually snap, and it's too low to the ground. This is the thick primary branch. Here's the split. So this one would need to come off. And then you can see there's a whole bunch of small ones around it that I'll also clean up. This is called cleaning the chimney, where you remove all of the dead branches, all of the little twigs that are busy competing potentially for this primary structure branch. And then we do that systematically through the whole tree. If we have a look a bit further up here, you can see we have these branches. There are a whole bunch of these little twigs coming off them. And we want to clean that up. We want to make sure. This was quite a big one. This one is also, once again, competing for the rest of the tree. So that by the end of this cutting session, you should have a beautiful, clean, primary structure that you can see clearly with all of your branches and fruit up on the top. Now I want to show you an example of a good competing branch. We have this branch over here. It's growing vertically up off the trunk, and this thing is from the bottom all the way to the top, so it's probably about 3 meters tall. And this is competing with this main trunk, and it's taken away a lot of nutrients. There's also a very vertical one here, so these two are parallel. And based on the structure, I'm probably going to want to keep this one, but this big branch at the bottom here needs to come off. And yes, it's a big, thick, long branch, but you can see it's got no actual branches on it, and only up at the tips does it have a couple of branches. And there we've already cleaned up the plant altogether. Here's another example, and sorry about all these plants in between, of another one growing off the base. And that's what we're doing when we're cleaning up the chimney. It's growing inwards. Take it out, and now all of these branches here are completely clean. No little twigs, no competing branches are competing for the primary structure of the tree. Now, as I climb under the canopy of this peach tree, something you won't often hear people talking about is the concept of the principle of pruning to twos. So here's a good example where we have the main trunk splitting off this way and the secondary trunk splitting off this way. But in the middle over here, there's quite a thick branch. And what happens is then we've got 3. And I've found that as soon as you have 3 or 4 branches from a node, it just doesn't work well. So we want to always prune back to 2. Yes, this is a big branch, but it's a competing branch. So now we have an open structure with a clear split, and we want to continuously go through the tree and look for splits. And whether they're vertical, if there's a vertical split, we pick 1. If there's a horizontal split with 3, we pick 2. And we systematically work through the tree in that way. And here's an example of the vertical split that I spoke about, where you got 1, and it splits, and 1 goes down the bottom and 1 goes down the top. You don't want this because the energy distribution is not going to be level. So if we follow the trunk here, we have our split into 2. It's beautiful. Then we have a split, and I always prefer with these trees going at the bottom and outward branch. So this top one we will remove, and now we've got a much cleaner shape. Then this one on the side we'll probably look at keeping, but that is going to show you how we've got a split. If we have a look at this one in comparison over here, we also have kind of a split, but this is more a downward facing branch. So I wouldn't do this one in favor of that one. I would just take that one off so that we can get back to having 2, 1, and if this were to branch into 2, then that's fine, and I'll take this off over here. So I'd go with those 2. Now this is where I want to chat to you about things getting scary, because when you look at a branch like this, it starts getting daunting. But you can see we clearly have 2 stacked branches, and one of these needs to stay, one of them needs to go. And based on the fact that I'm keeping a secondary vase shape above, I want to go with a lower branch over here. So in this instance, I am not going to keep the top branch. I'm only going to keep the bottom. And yes, It sucks to have to remove such a massive, massive branch, but that's what's needed. And now also when doing that, it exposes a whole bunch of extra verticals that I need to remove. So now we have a clean one up here, and then it moves. And over time, we have these two side branches. So these would eventually become our split. And I would take it's a dead one, I'll take that off, and then our branch would split over there. So having single long branches aren't necessary. You can have them split, but you want a single branch or a split. You don't want vertical stacking or more than 2 or 3 splitting. And now I want to start talking you through how I'm making my decisions for my secondary vase shape. And you can see up here, this over here at the bottom, this is where the primary vase shape is coming out. This is where I want my secondary one to come from. You can see there's a branch, there's a branch. And I want these two to be my fork, which means I need to take this big middle one out. That's a big branch. And immediately things clear up. And now this is going to be my secondary scaffold, and look, there's the top of the branch. I can reach it. So I'm automatically lowering the canopy just by selectively choosing the right branches with the right structure, so I can year on year keep building on that. Now you can see just how much this has opened up this space. It's completely open. The next thing we want to do is we want to start reducing the height of these really long branches. It's going all the way up to the camera. Like, this is a single really long branch. And if we have a look here, we have a natural split. There's 2 branches. So rather than continuing with the single long center stem, I'm going to remove this long stem, and I'm going to go back to the fork. I'm going to remove the bottom one, and now I have a split. There's a little bud over there. And then I can also, what I can then do is if I feel like these are too long, in which case I don't at this stage, I could cut them down, which will then give me different growth in summer. But I am now happy that I've reduced the height and I've got my split, so there's no competition. And this one I've already reduced as well down to 2. So that's in essence what you do. You're looking for 2s, you're cleaning up the chimney, you're reducing the height to 2s once again, and just continuously following this shape, this structure. And that's how you get a beautifully structured tree that is pretty compact for an urban environment that allows you to have multiple tiers. And you can see the gap between, well, let me show you, go down a bit. You can see the gap between this branch and this branch that's a good 60 centimeters. And remembering that these branches are still going vertical while these are going horizontal. So over time, I can have 2 clearly and distinctively different canopies. I'm going to go and do the rest of the tree, and I'm going to see you afterwards. And there you go. Almost the entire tree's gone. And that is literally as simple as it is. It can be daunting, but just remember, when it comes to peaches, nectarines, and other stone fruit, they are incredibly forgiving. They grow a huge amount in a single season, and that's what I'm hoping for this tree, because the second canopy up here does still need to do some work to get up, to fully set in. The back side of the tree was shaded out, and that needs to fill in. But otherwise, there is way more room. My arms aren't touching anything. I can move around. I can touch the top of the tree. This one's coming out right to the end. This one I do want to, over time, I'm going to use summer pruning, and we'll come back for this video. In summer, I want to get it to back bud over here so I can start the fork that I spoke about. There's the fork. I want this fork to be right at the bottom over here. So I'm going to use summer pruning to stimulate that growth. and then I'll be happy. But all in all, I think this tree is looking really, really great in comparison to what it used to look like. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing, because this tree is going to get summer pruned. This tree with all the flowers is going to get thinned. We're going to focus on this tree a lot in the coming years. So thank you for all your support. Until next time, happy homesteading.